All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Google Plus Hangout for Channels Beam. I'm Victor Matthias, and today we're looking at youth in politics, the challenges they face, as well as the prospects they have in this venture that, to some certain extent, I beg your pardon, has been dominated by the older generation. But I have with me today on the program Victor Bamshaye, who joins us from Ukraine, Lviv specifically. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And I also have Grema Tarab, who joins us from Abuja, Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory. It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Victor.
Of course. Let me just begin with you now. Looking at what are the challenges? I mean, how would you say? What would you say, or where would you say is the place of the youth in the politics currently?
Well, thank you very much for having me on your program.
Of course.
Well, Nigerian youths are yearning to be part of the system of governance. And from all indications, the youths are ready, and we are missing some points somewhere. We cannot be yearning to be part of the system of governance on the pages of the social media. Our youths prefer to be activists, social media critic, rather than joining the mainstream politics. We can never be part of the system without joining political parties, be a critical actor and a stakeholder in the political parties that are existing in the country. Key into one political party or the other. Otherwise, we will always be left behind. And for us to be part of the system, most of our youth feel politics is all about a dirty game. Politics is something that is meant for some people. And unfortunately, our governance only comes into practice through politics. So we all have to key in, but our youths are always fond of making a lot of excuses of not joining politics. Some of them feel shy to be part of the political arena. Some of them have less confidence, are lacking confidence to be part of the system out of fear of failure. So for us to be part of the system, for us to have youths to participate in governance, we must take the bull by the horn by being a critical stakeholder in the political atmosphere of this country.
All right, very well. Grandma, you're taking a jab at Nigerian youth, saying that they're mostly doing their participation on social media. But I'll come back to you on some of the things, the issues you raised. But Victor Bamshaye, let me come back to you now. You heard Grandma, in his opening speech. What do you think?
Yes, I quite agree with him. I do agree with him. I'm in solidarity with what he said. It was Bertolt Brecht, a German poet and playwright, who said that the subject of politics and its hard fact is impossible to, and it's impossible to disagree with him, that the worst illiterate is the political illiterate, because he does not know, he doesn't speak, he doesn't participate in political events, because he doesn't even know that it is politics that determines the cost of life, the price of bean, the price of fish, the price of flour, the price of rent, the price of shoes and medicine, and every other thing depends on political decisions. If the political illiterate had known, then he probably would have taken so much time to look at what is it that is deciding the course of his life and decide to be a part of it. And that is exactly what is wrong in our nation today. The youth are yearning for power, but do not know exactly how to get that power. So it's not like they don't want it. The point is that they don't know what to do to get to it, and that is exactly what makes them politically illiterate, because you must know how the process runs, you must be a part of the process, you must be there to guide and shape your own destiny. It's just normal that the people who are in the majority in every normal circumstance ought to decide how the society would be. So that's why the majority ideology, the majority people who subscribe to a particular ideology in different climes are the ones who dictate the pace. So if the youths are a majority, then one must be asking the question, what is wrong if the youths are not controlling things? So I think that the Nigerian youth, as of now, is politically illiterate, and we need to do more. We need to know more, and it's very easy to display ignorance, to act as though you know when you actually don't. But people who do know always dance towards the direction of the information that they have. So it's so clear to me that the average Nigerian youth knows nothing now about politics. However, those who know must continue to educate those who don't. And in fact, beyond education, they also must be seen at the forefront, myself inclusive. So that's why I've decided that as soon as I'm done with my program here, my academic program, I myself am getting myself registered in a political party, because we cannot continue to complain about the things that we actually have the chance to shape, the things that we actually have the chance to decide out there on.
All right. Talking about illiteracy, I think there's been a broader campaign. I mean, at least Grima said, there's been a campaign, be it on social media, or maybe peer-to-peer, and which has also resulted, in this not too young to run bill, that has been going around. Don't you think that is a step in trying to, educate each other thereabout?
Yes, it is. It is a very huge step, I must concede. It is a very huge step that they can talk about not too young to run. However, I would always like an holistic approach, a very holistic approach. We must begin to ask the questions of after not too young to run, then what is next? Because when you now get the platform set and you now put in people there who actually are not different from the other side, and if I were to talk about how youth can get power, I will be talking about number one, the ideological power, where we'll be talking about the economic power before we even get to political power. So now, when we are talking about not too young to run, it's a platform for political power, but no one gets to political power without ideological power or economic power. So I think while we're talking about this, we must begin to talk about what are the values that we can present, what are the ideologies that we have that is different from the past generation. For example, if the Nigerian youth will still believe in the concept of national cake and is only waiting for its own chance to get to the place where it shares national cake, then it's not different from the older generation. And you know what? He will always be beaten at that game, because those who belong to the past generation can do it better than him. So the Nigerian youth now must begin to bring new ideologies that are in line with current realities of technological advancement and the computer age, and how fast the world is changing, global paradigm shift. We must be able to build value systems that can sustain not just us, but also keep us within the frame of the global shift. So if our ideologies that we can work with are not different from what used to be, number one, not just that we won't get power, number two, in the eventuality that we get, the nation will not be better off for it. In fact, it will be worse, because you know what? We would have produced more advanced criminals who have advanced their cause in the depraved mentality that has put our nation where it is now. So in talking about not too young to run, it is a good step. It's a very huge step, like I considered. But I think we must begin to talk about the values the value systems that brought us to where we are, and how the youth can develop a different one that will bring to front a new ideological setting that will displace the old one. And the truth is, when new ideologies come forth that can stand the test of time and that can be proven to people that no, this is the way of doing things. Especially, for example, when Jesus Christ himself came, though many people say it wasn't political, but the idea of what he was saying is, repent, the kingdom of God is at hand. So, for example, he was saying there's a new order of belief here. So the youth must be able to bring a new order of belief that can displace the old ones. So things that are in line with the digital age. So if we can do that, then we'll be talking about a more holistic approach than just not too young to run, that offers us a platform, but not a different way of doing things.
All right, I'll come back to you in that in just a minute. But Grima, again, let me come back to you now. You talked about participation. Be it now not on the pages of social media. So how would you suggest that Nigerian youths go about this? Engagement. In the political space first and foremost.
Well, Nigerian youths are already in the political space. Only that chose to be stooges and puppets of their godfathers. They're already in the political arena, because when you look at all our political parties have been occupied by youths. Only the principal officers are not youths, because the youths chose to be puppets and stooges. So the only way the youths will rise up to the expectation is by challenging the status quo, going against the establishment of the party, and introduce new ways of doing things in the political party system. And Nigerian youths must know that they are equal to the task. They are also eligible to become leaders. We have been seeing a lot of programs like this all over the world. We have seen the one of Macron. We have seen the one of Austria. A 31-year-old boy is the president there. So we have even seen that in this country in the past, where the state I came from, Mohamed Gwani, in 1979, through the Borno youth movement. It was a youth movement. They gathered themselves. They went against the status quo. All the do's and don'ts of Borno as a den are in the NPN. So only the youths, most of them are below the age of 30. They gathered themselves, they came together, they formed a movement called Borno Youth Movement. Later on, they adopted the Great Nigerian People's Party, and they brought out Gwani, contested against the IG of Inspector General of Police as a den, the immediate Inspector General of Police as a den, Kamsalim. So he was the gubernatorial candidate of the NPN, and all the ruling class and all the wealthy people in our state were supporting him. And Gwani has only the youth, and he was only 36 years as at that time, and he won the election. So we have seen it in Kano, Rimi, we have seen it in a lot of places. So the youths are already in this space. Only that the leaders don't want the youth to take over, to take part in the chat, and we must push ourselves in. Nobody will give us that opportunity. You can't sit down at the comfort of your house or at the comfort of your office or at the pages of the social media, thinking that people will relinquish their position so that you will come and have it as easy as piece of cake. Look, governance, in as much as it is a system of providing social amenities and basic needs to the populace, it is also livelihood. So far, some people are making ends meet in it. So you can't allow people. You can't just feel that people will give away their daily bread for someone to come and take over. It is a source of income in Nigeria for you to be part of governance, for you to be part of the government. So if you feel somebody will allow himself out of the system so that he will become jobless, and you that is jobless to come into the system so that you will now start getting ends meet. So you can't just sit behind and feel that things are going to work. We are already in the system. We are already in the atmosphere. All we need to do is for us to present ourselves, to tell these leaders, the elders, that look, we have followed you for a very long time and you have not presented anything tangible. For us to compare the youths and the elders in this country, you can't even compare it. This nation was built by the leaders of this country, by the leaders when they were at their young age. All the courts and the EFCC cases were being stormed by elders. We have seen them.
So, all right, Grima, if I may come in, Grima, I mean, you said the independence. You talked about independence or being gotten for Nigeria by the young people. But if you look at it again, you can't really say, like you said, we still have the young people, in some positions in government. Would you say they have done remarkably well?
Yeah, it is always natural for young people to perform because, one, they are young and they are innovative. They have new ideas. They are catching up with the modern technology, and they want to build a career from the office they are occupying now.
So can you list some?
He's thinking of retirement, and now we have seen how we have seen how a lot of young people have performed tremendously well. As I told you, Governor Gwani became the governor of Borno State at the age of 36, and he's up till now he's still the best performing governor in my state. So we have seen it.
All right. So again, I have to come back to you. You made mention of young people that have done remarkably well. But can you list some of those young people that have done remarkably well?
I mentioned Balewa during his time, Sartori during his time. Gowon, he was 29 when he was the president of this country. He was able to manage the civil war. And Murtala, we have seen how Murtala performed. Obasanjo during his first tenure, he was at his late 30s, and he was able to build refineries. We have seen how he has built 3 refineries and about 21 depots. So in the past, we didn't perform. Now, why the Nigerian youths that are occupying office now that cannot perform is because of the godfatherism. They are godfathers because they allow themselves to be students and puppets. They don't allow them.
Okay, Victor. Let me just come to you now. One of the calls is the fact that young people are doing amazing things. Like you said, they're young, they're innovative. And so young people are doing a lot of things in the tech space. As entrepreneurs. But can you equate the leadership style in entrepreneurship as well as the one in governance? Is there a difference or is there a correlation?
The truth is that leadership is leadership. The only difference is, or that occurs, is that you know how to maneuver it depending on the platform where you operate. So that's why the whole essence of leadership goes into charisma and information, or let me use the word capacity and character. So it doesn't matter what your age is, if you have these two, and character especially, and the capacity to deliver, I think no matter where you are, you will perform. And that's why even I have utmost belief in the ability of the Nigerian youth to perform, because we've seen Nigerian youths do different and do great things in other fields. The question has been why have they been shy of venturing into the political system? But like we have said, education and talking about it on a broad spectrum of how, number one, to inculcate and imbibe good value systems, because, for example, our nation will never change if the values that run it does not change. So, one of the questions that has been asked, for example, is why is Nigeria where it is now? And a lot of people talk about the fact that it's because of our leaders. But the question has been, is any of our leaders, do we have one leader who is imported from China? Do we have any leader who is imported from Togo or from Lome border? None of this. Every Nigerian leader is made in Nigeria. So my view towards this thing has always been, on a very pragmatic note, we need to change value systems. And when we change value systems, in fact, nobody will ask the Nigerian youth before he ventures into politics, because when he sees things that are not in alignment with the value system that he has now, he pushes for it. For example, we've seen such situation in South Korea. We've seen such situation in Singapore, when a man has a value system and they say, no, things must be done differently. So I think if the Nigerian youth will have, if the Nigerian youth will have a different value system and build an ideology out of it and use it in the same platform that he has, the current political parties we have, or create his own movement, I think that it would do just well, because the same leadership skills that is needed outside there is the same one that is needed here. Because at the end of the day, it's all about how well can you sell, how well can you market, how well can you sell yourself and your potentials to people. The same thing that is needed in marketing, the same thing that is needed in tech, the same thing that is needed for product is the same thing that is needed for ideologies. And that is what the Nigerian youth must do. We must stand up and get our acts together.
All right, thank you very much, Victor. But on that note, we have to wrap it up. Oh, just before we do that, Grema, can we get your last word before we go? What would you like to say in conclusion?
Yeah, we're not saying we are getting rid of the elders completely. What we are saying is that there should be some synergy. We have to build a bridge between the young and old, so that we must have a very good synergy, so that we will tap from the experience of the elders, and the youth will come with their exuberance and their experience and the new age technology, new ways of doing things, so that we'll merge together with the experience of the elders to think about a new way of doing things. And we must understand one thing clear, that we are not saying all the youths are the only option, or they are the best in the country. We are not saying the elders are worst in the country. What we are saying is that we must come together. We have good ones among the leaders and bad eggs among the youths also. So we must come together to make a formidable team to salvage this country.
Thank you very much. Grema Tarabi joined us from Abuja, Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, as well as Victor Bamishaye, who joins us from Lviv in Ukraine. But that's all we have to wrap it up on this edition of the program. Thank you very much for joining us. For those of you who joined us via the YouTube stream, we do see all of you, and we'll see your comments but then we're out of time and we can't take any of them at the moment. But then thanks for joining us once again. It's a Google Plus Hangout for Channels Beam, and I'm Victor Matthias.